Hey everybody, Joe again. I wanted to make another video since the other day my phone cut out in the middle of showing the how-to of how to put a Predator blower on your Coyote Mustang. I have an 11 of 14 car. As you see, here's my car. And basically, I was actually talking about the PCV system. So my catch can setup is actually a dual valve catch can from UPR. It's really great. I converted a dual catch can. You need a single valve catch can for this GT500 blower setup. Basically, all you need is a clean side separator from driver's side to the air filter, of course, and then basically from the vacuum of the blower, there's a check valve, and the check valve faces towards the engine, the vacuum port towards the engine, and you run that to the side of the catch can, and then your PCV goes to the top of the catch can, and that's really all there is to it that you would need to do for this system. But there is something that I didn't mention either that a lot of you guys, I'm sure, are aware of already. Like if you're watching like this kind of video and you're trying to do this to your car, I'm sure you're already in it or did it, whatever. You're aware that the oil pump gears and the Coyote motors are they're just shit. So like you can't even think about doing a project like this without knowing like you have to change your oil pump gears and crank sprocket first. Actually, not to knock a company because I really don't want to, but I had a set of boundary gears in my Gen 1 motor. Kind of lost oil pressure. I think I want to attribute that to a Ghost Cam tune. I won't say the tuner who sent me that one. It's one of the big ones, and it didn't work out well with a Ghost Cam tune. I had an N2MB watt box set at 4,000, and I was on the Gen 1 motor with boundary oil pump gears in it, and I slammed the thing out of light. Long story short, I bent a rod on number 1. I cracked the bottom of the piston right where the wrist pin connects, and luckily the cross hatchings in the bore for number 1 on that old motor are perfectly fine. I only drove the car home a couple of blocks, so it was perfect. I essentially saved a Gen 1 block. Long story short, though, if you're ever thinking of doing anything like this, you should have already done, even on an NA setup, let alone you're going boosted, you got to do a set of oil pump gears. My experience was that, and now with this fresh engine build that I did myself, I actually called LM Engines. They're fantastic guys. I got a lot of great advice from them too, and they helped me out with a bunch of parts on the side. And they recommended TSS gears. They're really good. And in fact, yes, it's a fresh motor, but I have insane oil pressure in this engine. I mean, I barely rev it up to like 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, and I'm already seeing like 100 PSI of oil pressure, even at operating temperature, not even just cold. So that's the life of the engine. I mean, it's like the blood pressure of the motor, right? Like it's gotta be healthy. You want to rev this thing out. They're high revving motors. You want to make good power with this Predator blower. I mean, you got to get oil pump gears and a crank sprocket, to say the least. That would definitely be it. I would also do, while you're in there, new chains, new guides. I did Boss 302 tensioners. They're the same as what Ford used on the Cobra Jet program of this era. I like them because the primary tensioners are locking tensioners. They're oil pressure driven, of course, whereas the stock primary tensioners, they don't lock in place. So in the event that something catastrophic does happen to the motor, I experienced on my old motor, my chains were loose as hell. And I don't like how the guides could move back and forth. So long story short, if you're going to do this whole project, it's very easy to do. You're already in there. You take the balancer off, you take the cover off, you might as well do brand new guides. Do the Boss 302 Cobra Jet primary tensioners and secondary tensioners for that fact. And then that's pretty much it. I was talking the other day about mounting up the blower. You just gotta trim your cylinder heads for a Gen 2, so 15 to 17. 11 to 14, the blower sits perfectly down fine. The other thing I did have to do is this hose right here. I actually found this on eBay. This is a 2020 Up GT500 hose. It has a check valve in it to go back to the brake booster, and it has like the perfect fitting to go right there on the blower. Yes, I could have made my own, but I literally found it for like 20 bucks, so why not? The other stupid, kind of like the most ridiculous thing that I did on a whole project, I didn't do the conversion for the purge valve for like a Gen 2 setup. I literally kept a stock 14 purge valve and literally kept the same setup that I had on my Boss manifold when I was running my ProCharger setup. So I literally just ran a hose right into that port there, connected my purge valve perfectly fine, no problem there. And I'm just trying to think of what else. Oh, the other thing I did do, just because it's like good to know, and I do plan also on upgrading the fuel system, is I tapped the lid on the cover for a boost reference port. So this way I could read vacuum and tell exactly how much boost I'm running, which is important on a setup like this, even though I currently just still have the stock upper pulley for the Predator blower, and I'm simply just running a 5.2 Predator balancer from Ford Performance. So there's nothing really to talk about there, but I do plan, after I upgrade the fuel system with VMP's dual pump setup, I am definitely going to change the pulley setup here and go down in size. And another fun fact here too is that VMP, I keep mentioning VMP because, I mean, they're just really good. They made this piece for me as well. Some of you guys out there, if you buy this blower online, some of them do come with the map sensor and some don't. VMP literally makes this machined cover here. It has an O-ring gasket that goes down into the inlet here. It's actually a really, really high quality machine part. I think I paid like 20 bucks for it. It's so worth it. By the time you sit there, try to make your own piece out of metal or aluminum, steel or aluminum, it's not even worth it. Like they just make a high quality piece. Just buy it. And then the only other thing I had to do, by the way, I could keep all the same with the VMP no grind fed kit, the 6-rib kit. I was able to retain the factory setup for the water pump alternator pulley drive system. The only thing I did was I converted to the Predator balancer, which is a 4-rib belt, but it retains all the same pulleys, so you never have to touch that. And I like how VMP's throttle body adapter keeps the throttle body perfectly straight, whereas other companies have it too tilted where the factory outlet tube will hit. Whereas VMP, they really machined it perfectly, and they made a really nice offset so that your stock factory pipe for the water outlet tube really should fit perfectly, no problem. I almost wish I didn't cut mine off, but hey, whatever, that's all part of the fun, right? And then I guess the only other thing I didn't really mention was the cooling system, right? I mentioned I was running Department of Boost Titanic heat exchanger, the Department of Boost POA pump. What I did do, and I actually saw the only other company that offers anything similar to this style can here. This is a 2020 Up GT500 Predator. I think they call it a secondary reservoir for the supercharger cooling system. This was hard to find. This was like, I think 130 bucks too with the bracket. I literally had to just make my own bracket here just to hold it up. And Justin from VNP actually told me that when I first made this system, I made the bottle higher than the intercooler to be able to bleed it. but he actually told me that the hose that I had from the water neck to here was actually unnecessary, and it will self-bleed anyway, and he was right. So I eliminated that hose, but point being is that this was a little more expensive to do. If you could find it from a Ford dealer cheaper, then great. But VMP actually has a really good version of that bottle. I think they only are asking like $100 or so for it. So it's kind of worth it, because I probably, with tax and shipping, I paid like 140 or so. You save $40, whatever. But that's something you have to consider too if you run this setup. And I ran all 1-inch lines except for there. I just made a T that went from 1 inch to a 3/4 up T to just connect to that bottle. Just, it's only acting as a fill. And every once in a while I'll just watch it, open up the cap, and because I never actually got like a pressure bleeder system to fully pull all the air out of the, I just kept driving the car and open up the cap, let it self bleed. It eventually did, but it took a little while to do that. And besides for that, I mean, that's really kind of it. So as you see, once again, there it is. If you guys have any questions, just hit me up in the comments section. Like, subscribe to the channel. I plan on doing a bunch of more videos with this car. Like I said, I'm doing the fuel system on the car. I do want to do VMP's race intercooler and their Apex Predator lid down the road. And I think once I get the fuel system going on this car, I'm definitely turning up the boost. And I think I'm gonna go with I think Grip Tech makes the conversion for the upper pulley on the supercharger, and we're gonna put some more power out of this thing. It could handle it. It's a Gen 3 Illuminator. It's a 9.5-to-1 compression motor, which I'm so happy I chose for longevity of the motor, endurance too. I just want the motor to really, really last a long time at the power range. Luckily, it's got the Molle deep dish pistons. I think they're power pack pistons with Manley H-beam rods. It'll hold a decent amount of power, and I do believe it's much stronger than a just generic Gen 3 block. The difference too is I'm on pump 93. And so it's a whole nother discussion, but I purposely didn't choose a Gen 3 factory Ford service block, because that is a 12-to-1 compression motor. I'm on pump 93, and at that point, it's like I can't turn up the boost. You know, if I was on E85, different story, but with this lower compression motor, I have no worries at all of turning up the supercharger once I do the fuel system on the car. And for all you guys out there, though, most of you guys really, I'm assuming, are, of course, doing this on a 12-to-1 motor or even an 11-to-1 motor. The stock pulley is perfectly fine. I mean, it's just the right amount of boost. I think it's like 13 pounds of boost. Depends on your application, too. Of course, I can't tell you because this motor is different. It's Gen 2 heads, so technically bigger valves, bigger combustion chamber and intake ports, exhaust, you know, it's just a better designed head overall. So I don't know what the PSI would be coming out in and out of a Gen 1 head and an 11-to-1 versus 12-to-1 style piston. I can only tell you what I got going on here with a 9.5-to-1 compression motor, the Gen 2 heads. I ran my stock 14 GT cams, and you know what? I'm thrilled with the way the car is set up right now. VMP made 700 horsepower with the car at 90-degree intake temps in the middle of Carlisle. I mean, it was burning hot out there, and it did fantastic. I think the highest my IATs ever went during a pull was 130. You know, there's still room for improvement, I know, but that's pretty significant. And like I said, I ran out of fuel system at like 7,200 RPM, so there's still more room to get more power out. So I truly don't know what it's doing. But But even at 7,200 RPM, it made 583 foot-pounds of torque. It's pretty impressive. So very happy with the results. I do give a lot of credit and thanks to VMP for dyno tuning the car and just really dialing it in properly. Their team is fantastic. All the guys over at VMP, besides for Justin, of course, but they're just fantastic, and they really, this sounds ridiculous, but they got this car to literally drive like stock. It's incredible. I go back and forth on highway drives and a lot of city driving, light to light traffic, and this thing cruises perfectly fine. When you don't have your foot in it, it drives like the way the car was when it was stock. So I'm super impressed. For all you guys out there that are trying to do this, it's possible. It's right here. If you guys have any questions, just shoot me up in the comments section. Go follow me, Orlando Mustang Resto, and that'll be it.